A single mother bought a new phone. After a long day at work, she came home, placed her phone on the counter. Her son came to her and asked if it could play with this. She told him not to call anyone or mess with text messages, and he agreed. At around 11 o'clock, she was drowsy, so she decided to drug her son in and go to bed. She walked to his room and saw that he wasn't there. She then ran over to her room to find him sleeping on her bed with the phone in his hand. Relieved, she picked her phone back up from his hand to inspect it. Browsing through it, she noticed only minor changes, such as a new background, banner, and etc. But then she opened up her saved pictures. She began deleting the pictures he had taken, until only one new picture remained. When she first saw it, she was in disbelief. It was her son sleeping on her bed, but the picture was taken by someone else, above him. It showed a woman's face. My house was built in 1904. It's a single-family home with frame setting on a concrete block foundation. I've been living here for about 12 years. Of all the things that my siblings and I have seen or heard about it in this house, this one is my favorite. This happened to my brother. About 10 years ago, my brother and his best friends had started a garage band playing mostly Spanish rock, alternative music but in Spanish. His friends could only get together on Sunday afternoons. They would practice into the early evening, and they would usually call it by 8 p.m. This was the time I usually showed up and went to bed, cause I worked the graveyard shift. This happened in late fall, so the days were getting shorter. They had just finished a long session when the decision to head to someone else's house came about. My brother handed his car keys to his buddy so they could load up the equipment. Everyone had filed out of the basement, but the tricky part was that they needed to walk all the way to the back of the basement, up the back stairs, through the kitchen doorway, down the hall into the living room, and out into the front porch. Everyone was outside sitting in my brother's truck waiting for him. My brother was walking up the back stairs when he remembered that he had left his pancakes in to-go container sitting on a speaker in the basement. He made the decision to go back. Now the basement is not clean, with full sidelines. There had been partitions made, and the boiler and main heating unit are right smack in the middle. So after my brother walks back, he's about to retrieve his food container, when out of the corner of his eye, he sees it. It's a shadowy figure, right at his peripheral vision. This feeling of dread and uneasiness washed over my brother. We had been taught that if you're in the presence of a spirit or ghost and you feel the bad vibe, to say quick prayer or something else. My brother chose the latter. He basically just told it, "Hey, I don't have time for this shit." My brother started to walk to the back of the basement, closing doors and turning off lights. The last light switch is on the opposite side of the front door. My brother said he felt something in his back, but at no point did he turn around. As he flicked the last switch, the living room went dark. As he stepped out, he pulled on the door, closing it behind him, still holding his food container in one hand. As he closed the gap between himself and his friend's laden truck, he kinda smiled and thought things over in his head, mad at himself for speaking out when there was no reason. He climbed into the driver's side of the truck, putting on his seatbelt and getting ready to pull out of the parking spot directly in front of the house. When his friends asked, "Hey, wait, what about your brother? Isn't he coming?" My brother answered, "He went to work early tonight. He's gone." The next question was, "So who was walking behind you when you were leaving the house?" I had trouble falling asleep. My bedroom was the entire top floor of the house, with my bed and such being on the left side and storage closets and a play area being on the right. I was lying in my bed when I heard a noise from the other side of my room and see a rocking horse begin to rock. It was sitting just outside one of the storage closet doors. It proceeded to rock its way hallway across the room and stopped dead under the ceiling right. At this point, I was freaking out and just buried my head under the blankets and never picked out until morning. It was all confirmed to not to be a dream, as the rocking horse was still in the middle of my room. Furthermore, my parents told me why you were playing with your toys all the night. Their bedroom was below the storage closet and had heard the creaking of the rocking horse shuffling across the room. My best friend showed me how to use Google Maps. I'm sure you have seen it. It lets you use satellite images to look at the locations all over the world. A few years ago, I was in car accident. Since there, I really don't leave the house like that. It's difficult. I was fascinated by the fact I could see all over the world, almost like being there. It gave me a real eye on the world. I could go to almost any major city. I'd seen streets in China, Japan, Germany, and England. So many places. My favorite was to go to random places in major cities and see how many people and animals I could find. The faces of the people were always blurred to protect the privacy, but it was enjoyable to see them out there. She must have good taste. I laughed. I zoomed in closer. She was walking in a relaxed manner. I bet if I could have seen her face, I would see that she was smiling. I began to feel sad. I let my hands fall onto the arms of my wheelchair. I wished that I could be there. I was stuck in the chair. Enough of this for tonight. I turned off the computer and went to bed. I got up early and decided to look around the Paris. I liked the look of the city, with all of the old beautiful buildings and so many people to watch. A balding businessman walked quickly past. There was an old woman, hair covered with a scarf, carrying a large purse. I spun the view around a few more times. It was a young woman with her feet stuck in front of her in a relaxed manner. She was wearing a pair of red sneakers, like my own. I was startled for a moment as I noticed the black pants, white t-shirt, and black jacket. Her dark brown hair was tied loosely behind her head. A grey bag sat on the bench beside her. It can possibly be the same woman. This is a different country. How could it be here? It's not like she was in two places at once. She could just be a traveler. Besides, without seeing her face, I shook my head and went to fix my lunch. When I got back online, there was a lined-up motorbike and a car with two German flags sticking up from it. He looked like he was dressed for school, but I caught something out the corner of my eye. I turned the view. She was standing on a street corner, next to some kind of signpost. Even if she was traveling, there's no way I would find her every time. Was this some kind of joke? Looking for a note about a woman that shows up like Waldo? There was nothing. I texted my friend, asking him to look at the locations, if he saw the same woman. Hands sweating, heart thumping in my chest. After 10 minutes, he texts me. I see the lady you're talking about in Berlin. I didn't see her in Paris or Tokyo. Is this some kind of game? Are you okay? I didn't respond. Instead, returning to the location in Tokyo and Paris, I changed my location. It was lined with old buildings, with shops on the ground level and what I guess was apartment above. I scanned the street. They were empty. She wasn't there. I was getting so worked up about this. There was a building at the point of a fork in the road. She was looking toward me. I changed my location. I couldn't find a location without her. Slamming around inside my chest, I typed in the name of my town and I zoomed it into a random street. She was only a few miles from my house. Standing under the ironwork that stated the name of the park, she was looking at me. She was near me. She was watching me. She was coming for me. I typed the name of my apartment. I could see the outside of the building. The parking lot was full of cars. I searched everywhere for her. This place was safe. I didn't leave my apartment. I would never use Google Maps again. I would never see her again. As I said it, there was a knock at the door. I had a camera hooked to my computer that showed who was at the front door, which made it easier for me. With this issue that I have, I slowly reached for the control to show myself who was outside. I realized my mistake. The last Google's images that I've seen had only shown the outside of the building. I saw that woman again. She was looking at me at this camera, her face still a complete blur. As I tried to scream, she raised a hand and knocked loudly on my front door. My sister has a ghost. I lived with her once for about 3 months, and so much weird stuff happened in that time. All my sister would say to me when I mentioned it was her ghost. Didn't like me being there. Things like going to bed with everything locked up and switched off, and waking up in the morning with the back door open, lights on, and the kettle switched on. One night, my sister and I were getting ready to go out, and I'd asked to borrow her liquid foundation. I used it and put it back where she kept her makeup. 10 minutes later, she's asking me for it, and it was nowhere to be seen. She accused me of taking it and made me buy her a new one, and refused to listen to my side of the story. About a year or so later, when she was packing to move to a new house, she found the makeup in shoebox with some old letters. The shoebox was in the zipped up suitcase that was underneath her bed. But probably the most scared I ever felt was one afternoon when I was the only one in the house. which never happened as 4 other people lived there. I'd arrived home from work and headed straight to the bathroom. All the doors, windows, and etc. were closed. I was standing in the bathroom and started squeezing a pimple on my chin when a female voice in the hall said, "Stop picking your zits." It was loud enough and sounded real enough, and at the time I thought it was my sister. So I laughed, told her, "Fuck off," and asked what she was doing for dinner. No answer. I stuck my head out into the hall. No one there. I searched the house top to bottom, and there was no one in home. I sat out on the front porch until someone else got home. I didn't like to stay there alone.